Welcome back to another video, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. We talked about the Pacific, we talked about the Central, and now we're going to talk about the Metro. Some of the most underrated players in the Metropolitan Division. Now, I'm going to tell you 5. I'm not saying that these are the top 5. I'm not saying that these are the best 5. I'm just giving you 5 of the roughly 30 names that I could think of when it came to underrated players in the Metropolitan Division. I'm doing this because I kind of want you guys to contribute below in the comment section and let me know some of the players that you think are also underrated players as well. So let's not wait any longer. Let's get into this. Here are the top 5, or not the top 5, sorry. Here are 5 underrated players in the Metropolitan Division. Number 1, Claude GIROUX. So Claude GIROUX could probably be considered an all-star, a superstar. I would classify him as both. He's not the typical superstar, but he is on that level. He is 100% one of the best face-off guys in the entire league. He's extremely valuable to the Flyers organization. And even that he is at that status of superstar, and people know how good he is, I think he's still underrated. He doesn't get the credit that he deserves. He's viewed by his fellow players on his team and the rest of the league as someone who is underrated as well. I think there was a poll maybe 2 years ago where everyone rated the most underrated player in the league, and I think Claude GIROUX is very high on that list if I'm not mistaken. If you look at his numbers and statistics, it confirms it. He is there's no question he's an underrated player, regardless of what he's paid, regardless of his status around the league. He's underrated. He just is. Number 2, NIKLAS BÄCKSTRÖM. So this is kind of an easy one, but arguably maybe shouldn't be on this list. He is kind of like Claude GIROUX, a superstar for sure, but he's overshadowed by Ovechkin, obviously. Ovechkin would be an amazing player without BÄCKSTRÖM, but Ovechkin's game is elevated by the incredible talent of BÄCKSTRÖM. Ovechkin would not be the current Ovechkin without BÄCKSTRÖM. BÄCKSTRÖM is the playmaker. He runs a lot of the plays, even if you don't think he does. He does. He's a quiet guy, but he knows. He's kind of like Mark Scheifele. He's really a student of the game. So just on an individual level, I really appreciate what he can do on the ice, even if it's not a big flashy move or something. It's the little things that he does that make him underrated and make him underappreciated. And I think regardless of what he's paid, kind of like Claude GIROUX, you have to think that NIKLAS BÄCKSTRÖM is underrated. Ovechkin gets most of the love. That's just how it is. It'll always be like that. The goal scorer will always be number 1 in most people's eyes. And Ovechkin is number 1 in my eyes too. I think when I think Washington Capitals, I think Alexander Ovechkin. But that doesn't mean I don't think about BÄCKSTRÖM as well. So he deserves some credit. BÄCKSTRÖM is underrated. Number 3, CIZIKAS. So when I think about teams as a whole who could be considered an underdog or an underrated team, I think about a lot of players on the Islanders. I could probably put half of the Islanders roster on this list, or I guess a quarter of the roster on this list. It's a team that's structured so well. It's a lot like Winnipeg, I feel. Yeah, they've got some guys who can put the puck in the net. They've got some guys who you could arguably say are maybe superstars like Barzal. But as a group, as a whole, it's filled with depth players who are underrated around the league, and I think CIZIKAS is a perfect example of that. He can play well at both ends of the ice. You can put him in situations where he'll feel comfortable regardless of his role. He doesn't mind laying the body. He's just one of those players that you can really rely on, count on. But he doesn't get that superstar reputation, and he shouldn't. I mean, honestly, he shouldn't be a superstar, but he does a lot of the little things right, and I do believe he should get more appreciation. Not superstar appreciation, but more appreciation, and that's what makes him underrated. So there was no way that I was going to be able to make this video without including CIZIKAS. Shout out to the Islanders fans. Number 4, Brian Dumoulin. So that's probably a name that you've heard before, but maybe it hasn't really stuck with you. Or if you're just the average hockey fan, maybe you don't even know who Brian Dumoulin is. And that's kind of the point of why he's in this video. There are some players who do big things and get big recognition for it. I think Brian Dumoulin is a player that makes a lot of really good small decisions and is a very responsible player for the most part. He gets his criticism. I've heard it. I understand it. I don't even disagree with some of it. But I think if you look at him as a whole, he does so many little things right for the Pittsburgh Penguins. I think he is the most underrated player on the Penguins. I think he's one of the most underrated people in the Metro Division and the entire NHL. He does so many little things right, and he doesn't get recognized for it. And he should. He really should. He's a very consistent player. And Penguins fans, I've seen Penguins fans be really harsh on him at times and really favorable on him at times. So, you know, maybe there is certain points of his career where there are consistency issues, but I think overall, everyone should come to the agreement that he is underrated based on what he does for the team. Number 5, TEUVO TERÄVÄINEN. So when you think Carolina Hurricanes, what's the first name that pops up? It doesn't even have to be now. It could be in their history. Is it Cam Ward? Is it Stahl? Is it Justin Williams? Is it Sebastian Aho? Probably one of those names are what the majority of you would think of first. But why isn't it TEUVO TERÄVÄINEN? Genuinely, why isn't it? Is it because Sebastian Aho is that high draft pick and TEUVO TERÄVÄINEN was expectations there as well, on the same level as maybe a couple of other players around the league, but he does so many amazing things on the ice, and I would say does get credit for it, but the credit doesn't last long. It's almost like you'll see him in a highlight reel making an amazing play or doing whatever, and you appreciate him, but then he almost doesn't get talked about afterwards, and it's kind of a weird thing. Like, if Sebastian Aho does something, you know, people are talking about it for a week afterwards. For whatever reason, that doesn't happen with TERÄVÄINEN, I feel. I feel like he's extremely underappreciated around the NHL. I even think he's underappreciated by Metropolitan fans, like fans of teams within the Metropolitan Division. I don't think he's underappreciated by Carolina fans. Hurricanes fans, you just know, you know how good TEUVO TERÄVÄINEN is. I don't have to sit here and tell you how good he is. He is underrated. There's no question about it. I would argue it in the comments. I would argue it in a video, and he needs to be on my list. I'm not saying he's in the top 5, but he needs to be on my list. Shout out TEUVO TERÄVÄINEN and Hurricanes fans. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Feel free to disagree with any of my picks down below in the comment section. Make some of your own. I would love to hear your thoughts on some underrated players or more underrated players in the Metropolitan Division. If you are not subscribed, I would love it if you could hit the subscribe button down below. I would also love it if you could hit the like button down below, and I will see you in a future video. Adios.